When these Gen Z kids visited their 84-year-old neighbor's house, they expected clutter and outdated furniture. They found something completely different. What they discovered will change the way you view senior homes forever. The basement revelation in the middle of the video will blow your mind. But first, let me tell you how this all started. This is Rose's house. She's 84 years old and has lived here for 60 years. From the outside, it looks like any other home in this quiet neighborhood. Two Gen Z neighbors, Sarah and Jake, both in their early 20s, offered to help Rose organize her home. They thought they'd be sorting through decades of clutter and helping her downsize. What started as a simple favor became a masterclass in intentional living. Every room held surprises that would make modern organizers jealous. They had no idea they were about to discover the secrets of a generation that built everything to last. Let's follow their journey, room by room, and see exactly what left them speechless. The living room looked ordinary at first glance, but Rose's first lesson was about to begin. The coffee table seemed normal until Rose showed them how to lift the top, revealing hidden compartments filled with magazines, games, and remote controls. This wasn't just furniture. It was a storage solution built in 1967 that's still in perfect condition. Before storage ottomans existed, Rose's husband built furniture that served multiple purposes, and this was just the beginning. Then they noticed what appeared to be a decorative wall panel. Rose touched it gently, and it folded down to reveal a complete desk with drawers, compartments, organized supplies, stamps, stationery, and even a built-in light. This tiny living room had more storage and functionality than most modern apartments. The space-saving design was ahead of its time, created decades before tiny homes became trendy. But the real surprise was the entertainment center. The stereo system from 1972 still works perfectly, and when Rose turned it on, the sound quality put their modern speakers to shame. Every component functions flawlessly after 50 years. The vinyl record collection contains over 500 records, organized by genre and artist. Sarah and Jake couldn't believe they'd never heard music sound this rich and clear. The living room was impressive, but it was just the warm-up for what was coming next. If the living room was impressive, the kitchen was a revelation. Rose had turned every inch into functional space in ways that would make modern designers envious. What appeared to be regular cabinet doors opened to reveal pull-out spice racks with dozens of spices, all perfectly labeled and easily accessible. But that wasn't all. Built-in knife storage was incorporated into the door design, and cutting boards slid out from under the counter like hidden drawers. The kitchen was like a Swiss Army knife where every surface had multiple functions. Rose demonstrated how cabinet doors had magnetic strips for storing small tools, how the inside of cabinet doors contained measurement conversion charts that she'd handwritten and laminated, and how she'd created a system where everything had its specific place and purpose. The efficiency was mind-blowing, no wasted movement, no wasted space. Then came the appliance showcase. The 1960s mixer, the 1950s toaster, and the vintage pressure cooker had a combined age of 180 years and were still running perfectly. Rose used each one regularly, and they performed better than many modern equivalents. She explained how appliances were built to be repaired rather than replaced, and how she'd maintained them through simple care and occasional professional servicing. The recipe collection was perhaps the most impressive discovery in the kitchen. Handwritten recipe cards, organized by category, represented decades of tested and perfected meals. Every recipe included notes about what worked, what didn't, and modifications she'd made over the years. This wasn't just cooking. It was culinary documentation that represented a lifetime of expertise. The kitchen demonstrated that true organization isn't about having the latest gadgets, but about thoughtful systems that serve multiple purposes. The bedroom continued the theme of maximized functionality. What looked like a regular bed sat atop a storage system that would impress modern organizers. Drawers slid out from under the bed, each one deep and well-organized with seasonal clothes, extra bedding, and household items. This was before storage containers existed. Rose had built her own system that lasted decades. The closet was a masterclass in organization. Floor-to-ceiling systems used every available inch, with handmade dividers separating different types of clothing. The seasonal rotation system meant that current season clothes were always accessible while off-season items were stored but still organized. 60 years of clothes were perfectly arranged, with many vintage pieces in better condition than items bought last year. But the real surprise was the sewing empire Rose had created in the spare bedroom. A complete sewing setup included industrial-grade equipment, a fabric collection organized by color and type, and storage systems for buttons, zippers, and notions that would make craft stores jealous. The vintage sewing machine from the 1960s still ran smoothly and could handle any fabric. Rose explained how she'd made most of her family's clothes for decades, creating custom pieces that fit perfectly and lasted for years. This wasn't just a hobby. It was a complete garment manufacturing setup that had saved thousands of dollars over the decades while producing higher quality clothes than most stores sold. Even the bathroom held surprises that demonstrated Rose's practical genius. Safety modifications had been incorporated so seamlessly that they looked like intentional design features rather than accommodations. Grab bars were cleverly disguised as towel racks and decorative elements, and non-slip modifications blended perfectly with the original design. Storage solutions maximized every available space. Behind-mirror storage provided easy access to daily items, while repurposed containers created an organization system that utilized vertical space efficiently. The medicine cabinet wasn't just a cabinet. It was a complete organizational system with labeled sections for different types of medications and health supplies. Even the space above the toilet had been converted into useful storage without making the bathroom feel cramped. Zero space was wasted, and everything served a purpose while maintaining the bathroom's attractive appearance. The basement was where the real magic happened, and Sarah and Jake weren't prepared for what they found. Descending the stairs revealed a complete workshop that would make professional craftsmen envious. Wall-to-wall tool organization showcased decades of carefully maintained equipment, with each tool having its specific place and many showing signs of regular use despite their age. This wasn't just storage. This was where Rose's husband had built most of the furniture they'd discovered upstairs. Hand tools, power tools, measuring equipment, and hardware were all organized with a precision that put modern garages to shame. Labels indicated not just what each tool was, but what projects it was typically used for and when it had last been serviced. The handmade furniture showcase revealed the true extent of the craftsmanship. Before and after photos showed raw materials transformed into finished pieces that were still beautiful and functional decades later. The joints were perfect, the finishing was professional grade, and the attention to detail exceeded what most people could buy in stores. Every piece of furniture upstairs had been handmade in this basement workshop, customized to fit the specific spaces and needs of the house. Project documentation filled multiple binders with blueprints, notes, progress photos, and lessons learned from each build. This wasn't casual woodworking. It was professional-level craftsmanship documented like an engineering project. Rose explained how her husband had taught himself these skills through books, practice, and determination, creating furniture that was both beautiful and functional while saving thousands of dollars over the years. The workshop also contained Rose's own projects. After her husband passed, she'd continued using the space, learning to maintain and repair things herself. Her project documentation showed decades of home maintenance, improvements, and creative solutions to everyday problems. This basement wasn't just a workshop. It was a testament to self-reliance and continuous learning that spanned generations. But the biggest shock was still coming. In the corner of the basement sat a life documentation system that put any digital organization to shame. Wall-mounted photo albums contained perfectly preserved photos from each decade, organized chronologically and by event. The quality of preservation was remarkable. Photos from the 1960s looked like they were taken yesterday. The filing system was equally impressive. Important documents, warranties, manuals, and records were all organized in a fireproof filing cabinet with a system that made everything instantly accessible. Rose could locate any document within minutes, and many warranties and manuals were for items still in use after decades. This was better than any digital system because it had lasted 60 years without crashes, updates, or compatibility issues. Hidden talents were revealed through carefully preserved artwork, crafts, awards, and certificates. Rose wasn't just organized. She was accomplished in ways no one knew. Self-taught painting, community volunteer work, local historical documentation, and various creative pursuits had filled her life with purpose and achievement. The documentation showed a life fully lived, with evidence of continuous learning, community contribution, and personal growth that spanned decades. The basement revelation made Sarah and Jake realize that Rose wasn't someone who needed help organizing. She was someone who could teach organization. Her systems had worked flawlessly for decades, required minimal maintenance, and provided more functionality than most modern solutions. This wasn't about helping an elderly person declutter. This was about learning from someone who had mastered intentional living before it became a trend. What started as helping an elderly neighbor became a lesson in intentional living that completely changed how Sarah and Jake thought about homes, organization, and what it means to live purposefully. Rose hadn't just accumulated things over 60 years. She had created systems that maximized functionality while minimizing waste. Before minimalism was trendy, Rose had mastered purposeful design where every item served multiple functions and every space was optimized. The visit revealed that sometimes the older generation has more to teach than we realize. While young people focus on the latest organizational products and digital solutions, Rose had created analog systems that worked perfectly for decades without updates, subscriptions, or planned obsolescence. Her home demonstrated that true organization isn't about having the right products, it's about thoughtful systems, quality items that last, and the wisdom to create solutions that serve multiple purposes. Sarah and Jake left with a completely different perspective on what it means to organize a home and live intentionally. They realized that Rose didn't need their help, they needed hers. Which discovery shocked you the most? Comment below and let me know what surprised you about Rose's home. What do you think we would find in your grandparents' house? Should we do a part 2 showing Rose's specific life hacks and how she created these amazing systems? If you want to see more surprising home discoveries that challenge what we think we know about organization and intentional living, make sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell. Sometimes the best solutions aren't the newest ones. They're the ones that have been tested by time.